you see, this is a special interview for Talkin and Grubbin. I had this man on here with me a few months ago. We were talking about Greg Williams being replaced. Now, Freddie Kitchens has gone from offensive coordinator to head coach. I have Rob Bluhm, the beat writer of CLESportstalk.com. How you doing?
Hey, doing good, Quentin. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. Thanks for joining me.
Sure thing.
you know, I mean, wish we could have at least had some January football, but that first half of the season really did the Browns in.
It did, yeah. But, we got a lot of excitement going in that second half. So we've got a lot to look forward to next season.
I definitely agree. So, how do you feel about the Browns promoting Freddie Kitchens to head coach?
Well, I'm good with it. I think we have to be good with it at this point. I think looking past the coach, we got a good roster and everything. So you got to be excited about where the team's going. So if you just look at what the Browns did the second half of the season under Freddie, the offense was excellent. So you just have to hope that it translates to him being head coach. That he'll still have his footprint on that offense, and that he can be a leader at head coach. For the team. I think he's done an excellent job in assembling his staff. Bringing in some very experienced guys and highly thought of guys to fill out his staff. So I think that definitely bodes well for Freddie, and his success, having a lot of great guys around him. So talking more about Freddie, I loved the press conference when he was introduced. I loved everything the guy said. I listened to the thing 2 or 3 times. I'm thinking, this guy's not just talking about football. He's talking about life, and how you should attack life. So I wasn't so sure, as to whether I wanted this guy who pretty much seemed to come out of nowhere. He wasn't even on the Browns, not too long ago. And he comes in as running backs coach, and then all of a sudden he's OC, and then he's head coach, within a very short period of time. But when you start looking at what he actually has done, over his career, having coached different places, and then you see all these relationships he's formed with all these people and all these guys who wanted to come to Cleveland to be with him. It just says so much about the man. And I think that that's the kind of leader that we want in Cleveland, is somebody that the people, that the guys want to play for, that they want to be around. And that's one side of it. And the other side is just the way he coached that offense last season. And, not only getting the most out of the guys, but the ingenuity, the play calling. I think it's a really exciting hire for the Browns.
Definitely. I definitely agree. If Freddie Kitchens wouldn't have been promoted, which coaches would you have liked the Browns to hire? Well, going after.
If it would not have been Freddie, I would have been fine with Greg Williams staying as head coach. I thought the players played very well for Greg. And, maybe that's not a popular choice. I think people were really divided on Greg Williams, but the man put together, a record of 5-3. He's he's the first coach to have a winning record in Cleveland since Marty Schottenheimer. Okay, so I think he deserves a little bit of credit. It's sure he had Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens helping him out, but I think we could have been just fine with Greg Williams as coach. So I would not have had an issue with that whatsoever. Beside those 2 guys, there were some other guys, but I really didn't have a front runner, because when things were really starting to come together as to who was being interviewed, it became pretty apparent that it was going to be Freddie. And if it wasn't going to be Freddie, it was probably going to be Greg Williams.
Okay. Now, Speaking of Freddie Kitchens' coaching staff, I want to focus on the offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. What's your take on the hires of Steve Wilks and Todd Monken, and what do you think they'll bring to the table?
Well, let's talk about Steve Wilks first. I mean, the guy, regardless of the job you think he did in I almost said St. Louis and Arizona last year, uh, going back a few years here, but the guy obviously didn't have much of a chance there um, to to really mold the team. When you're given one season as a coach, I'm certainly not going to judge him based on that. I think he had some success in Carolina before that, and I think we're gonna see him. I think we're gonna see him play a defense that we're going to enjoy. I think it's not going to be a whole lot different on the immediate surface from what we saw from Greg Williams. It's going to be an aggressive defense. It's going to be a little bit different. I think he plays a cover four, is my understanding, more often. But he's going to use a lot of sub packages and get the most out of his players. I don't know if he'll be as aggressive, blitz as often as Greg Williams did, but I think it's an excellent hire. I'm really excited to see what he can do, and I think he's brought some excellent guys in around him, to help him with the defense. I mean, just looking at the guys he's brought in, I'm really excited. People have complained about Greg Williams and the Browns defense for a couple seasons now, and it's really debatable as to whether it can be hard to convince people whether Greg Williams was doing a good job or not. I happen to think he did a pretty darn good job. Even you can look at yards given up and stuff, and that doesn't always tell the story. Okay, I think Greg Williams did a good job, but I think they've put together a nice, very nice defensive staff, and I think these guys are going to do a great job under Steve Wilks. So
Okay,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to jump right back over to offense, but I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to throw in there.
No, you go ahead and talk about Todd Monken.
Oh, I think Todd Monken. I think he's the guy that we wanted in Cleveland. I mean, this is a guy who was being thought of as as a head coaching candidate in a lot of places, and he ended up coming to Cleveland to be our offensive coordinator. And I think, he had tremendous results in Tampa Bay. I don't know how long he'll be in Cleveland, but he wanted to come here, and I think that he and Freddie are going to work very well together. And I can't wait to see what they do together. I think he's probably going to be here for a season, and he's probably going to be a head coach somewhere. It's exciting to have that kind of talent in the building with Freddie. I can't imagine the kind of stuff these guys are going to come up with. Just to use the talent that's on the offense. Again, I'm really excited about it. I love the staff that's been put together really on both sides of the ball.
I definitely agree. So, what vision do you think Kitchens will have for the team?
What vision? Well, I think we got to see what vision John Dorsey has for it, first of all, along with Freddie, this offseason. I think they're going to, I think you're going to see a carryover from last season. I think this team's going to come out with a chip on its shoulder. I think they feel like they should have won more games than they did last year. And I think they feel like they have every right to come out and challenge, if not, win the AFC North and make a run in the playoffs. So I don't think this team's going to be afraid of anybody. And, I think Freddie's going to have these guys playing together and playing for each other. And we'll just have to see how the rest of the roster, what kind of changes are made by Dorsey, with obviously with input from Freddie and some other people. but to kind of see where the team is going as far as what they're building for. Are they trying to build to get into the playoffs now, or are they trying to build, long term for, just for the future? I think we'll kind of see that in free agency with the kind of guys that they sign.
All right. Now, speaking of Dorsey, I'm going to ask you to put on your GM hat. If you were Dorsey, what positions would you address in the upcoming 2019 draft?
Well, I think between the draft and free agency, I think the biggest need is on the defensive line. It's a defensive tackle. We pretty much have Larry Ogunjobi, and then a bunch of spots to fill from where I'm sitting. I mean, Larry Ogunjobi played way too many snaps last year just because he had to. He's a great player, but when you play way more snaps than almost anybody in the league, you're gonna be run down by the end of the season. So they need rotational guys in there to help him out, to keep him fresh. So I think the Browns are going to add several, meaning 2, maybe 3 defensive linemen through free agency and the draft. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It'll be interesting to see how they attack doing that, and we'll have to see. I mean, they have some guys that have some flexibility. We'll see what they decide to do with Jannard Avery, if he ends up being more of a designated defensive end, to where they move almost move Emmanuel Ogbah to where he's playing more defensive tackle, which he kind of did last season anyways. So if Ogbah's in the rotation of defensive tackle along with Ogunjobi, then you're trying to add 2 guys. I would think you're adding one in the draft and one in free agency, and you're probably trying to add one who's a major stud. So you're probably trying to take one at 17, or you're probably trying to sign a fairly high profile defensive tackle. Beyond defensive tackle, I think to me, this team has a lot of talent really throughout the roster at the starting spots. I don't see glaring needs much of anywhere. I think they have good depth at wide receiver. I don't think they really are going to feel, it's going to depend on Perryman, whether they're able to sign him again, and a couple other guys like
Rashard Higgins.
Yeah, but but I think they probably feel pretty good there. I could definitely see them trying to bring in another corner to compete for that number 2 corner spot. You can never have too many corners. Beyond that, I really think that this team is just trying to add depth anywhere and everywhere they can get it.
Okay, now in my opinion, compliment, Miles, because I feel opposing offensive lines double team him so much because he's so much of a threat to get to the quarterback and sack him.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely hope that they would address that, so they won't have to. So Gary won't be double teamed so much, and that can free him up more.
Yeah, you're talking about the defensive line?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That's why I want to see him bring in, that not only, it's easy to say, yeah, they need to draft a defensive tackle at 17. They need depth in the rotation at defensive tackle. You can't live in this league with 2 defensive tackles. You need guys who can come in and spell these guys to where they're fresh throughout the season. That's just how it is. They're going to have to add some guys to where they can continuously keep pressure and defend the run, and not just expect Larry Ogunjobi and whoever they draft to play 900 snaps next season.
Yeah,
You're just waiting for the guys to die out there if that's what you do.
I definitely agree. And looking back on this this Super Bowl that just passed, I think that's what also hurt the Rams, that they didn't have somebody that could back up Aaron Donald.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that's the case. I mean, let's face it, there's nobody who's going to fill his shoes. But yeah, I mean, you need depth. You need depth everywhere. The best teams are able to rotate guys in and out, when need be, and not have a huge drop off. And I mean, that's where I feel like the Browns are right now, is they have good starters just about everywhere. They don't have all pros everywhere, but they have pretty darn good starters pretty much across the board. They don't have much depth at all at a lot of positions. So they're going to draft guys, they're going to sign guys to come in and compete. And, these guys aren't necessarily coming in to be the backups. These guys are coming in, in some cases, they may end up being the backup. In some cases, it may end up taking somebody's job. This is how it's going to be. You're going to have to fight for a job on this team now.
Definitely, I definitely agree with you. So, if you were Dorsey, which top 5 players would you take a serious look at in free agency?
Well, I have to tell you, I don't have a free agent the list right in front of me right now. Off the top of my head, I mean, I'm looking at the top defensive tackles because I know the draft is real deep at DT. But what that means for me is that there's a chance that if there's a run on defensive tackles going down to 17, that means somebody else could fall to 17. That could be a no-brainer for the Browns to take, rather than a defensive tackle. And if that's the case, the Browns, I definitely expect them to look very seriously at defensive tackle in free agency too. And if they end up signing one and drafting one, so be it. But if somebody like Grady Jarrett's available, I was just talking today, I would look at signing Haloti Ngata for a season, bring him in for a deal, which probably wouldn't be a real big deal. And man, let the man teach some of these young guys how to play defensive tackle. I would love his leadership on this team with somebody, with a rookie defensive tackle and Larry Ogunjobi. Put him in the rotation.
Definitely.
And then I would look at some corners, and then I think John Dorsey's just going to be looking at some free agent wide receivers to bring in to compete potentially. Beyond that, it's hard to say. It could be a lot of spots. It probably depends what they end up doing with Robinson at left tackle, if they bring him back. If not, they could be looking there in free agency as well too.
Yep. Speaking of corners, the main corner I would love to take from the Ravens is C.J. Mosley.
You mean the linebacker?
Linebacker. I'm sorry. Why do I keep on?
Yeah.
I would love to take him from the Ravens.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to see him come play for the Browns. Linebacker is very interesting on the Browns because I think a lot of people are expecting that Jamie Collins is going to be released because that frees up about, I think, $10 million in cap space for the Browns. So then you're left with Schobert. Kirksey's going to be around another season because he's a big cap hit if they cut him. I think like $7 million. So he's going to be around another season. And then, so you have to figure out what you're doing if you cut Jamie Collins. I don't think this draft is. I'm not an expert on this draft, but I don't think there's a lot of linebackers that they're talking about for the first round, other than guys that probably aren't going to be there at 17. So I don't know that they'll replace a linebacker in that first round. So it's hard to say if they'll be able to get a starter at linebacker in this draft or not. So, it's kind of interesting, but I'm sure C.J. Mosley's probably going to get a pretty good deal somewhere.
Definitely, definitely. Now let's switch it over to the Haslam's. Now, every Browns fan has had their issues with the Haslam since they brought the team. Now, Jimmy and D Haslam have finally started to get it together by hiring John Dorsey, letting John Dorsey pick the coach, which was Freddie Kitchens. So now, do you think the Haslams will step back and let Dorsey and Kitchens do their jobs?
I sure hope that that they've learned their lesson, and it kind of seems like D is kind of taking a step forward and maybe kind of helping to keep Jimmy a little bit out of the way of some of this stuff. You know, so I'm very hopeful. So far so good. They don't seem to be in the forefront a lot right now. Like if you watched the press conference with the Freddie Kitchens hiring was Dorsey and Freddie, and that was pretty much it. So let's hope that the Haslams have learned and that they see the direction this team is headed, and that they know, just like all of the rest of us, that John Dorsey is smarter than the rest of us, and we're best off just staying out of his way and letting him do his job.
Okay, what about Kitchens?
Well, I think that it appears that Kitchens is reporting to Dorsey. I mean, I don't think John ever really answered that question properly. He kind of said they're a team and they're working together and everything, but it doesn't feel like there's that same dynamic of Freddie reporting, of each of them reporting to Jimmy and fighting against each other on stuff. So I'm kind of hoping that's the case. It does kind of seem like these guys like each other and they're kind of one mind. And let's hope it stays that way. And let's hope everything stays cohesive, like it appears right now. I mean, things seem great right now, and we've got a whole off season coming here with John Dorsey at the helm. I'm sure he's going to add some nice talent, and we're all going to be really, really excited. And we're going to feel like the Browns are going to rip through the season and win, 12, 13, 14 games. And that may not be the case.
Knock on wood.
Right. I mean, it could be. They may have the talent to make it look like that'll happen, but this is football. You just never know what's going to happen. So we have to be prepared. This team could have a stumble this season, and maybe 2020 is the year where they really break out. We just don't know. But I think the key is that we feel like this team has so many pieces in place now with the GM, hopefully the coach, the quarterback, and a lot of the other players that we just want to see things, continue and without all these interruptions. I've been an advocate for trying to keep things the same and see what happened for a long time, and unfortunately, we just haven't had the right people in place to be able to do that. I wanted to see that happen with Hugh Jackson, but Hugh Jackson just wasn't the guy. I mean, you have to admit after so many losses that, hey, we got to get this guy out of here. He's killing the team. So I'm very hopeful that Freddie is the guy, and I think just from his press conference, just from what he said and from the staff that he's built, I have a good feeling that I think he has a good shot at being an excellent head coach for the Browns.
Yeah, let's just hope a couple of years from now he's not telling them to get the F out of his office.
That's right.
Okay, now Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, Denzel Ward, Kate, and Jarvis Landry also came in and changed the culture instantly for the Browns. How has it impacted the city of Cleveland and Browns fans across the world?
Well, I mean, it's been amazing, but it's kind of interesting because we've been excited before. You know, we've been excited when coaches have come in, when new owners have come in, when players have been drafted. It's none of it matters until you see wins. If we had Baker and all these other guys and they put up the same numbers and the Browns went 2-14 this year, we would not feel the same way. And Freddie Kitchens said 7-8-1 is not good enough. You know what? 7-8-1 feels pretty darn good when you just went 0-16 because you just how close this team was to winning a few more games, and you can see, wow, 7-8-1, man, this team was 0-16. Now we're 7-8-1. We were almost in the playoffs. We were, so close to making the playoffs. A couple tweaks, a couple of calls, and this team is in the playoffs next season.
And a couple of made field goals.
Yeah. I mean, so 7-8-1, 7-8-1 is really throw all the other stuff out, all the players, everything. 7-8-1 to me is where the true excitement comes from.
Definitely. And also, you can also see that the pride has come back within Cleveland as well as Browns fans. And also you starting to have some young Browns fans come to the Browns where I'll be 36 next month, where a lot of people in my age group and my generation have just been disconnected from the Browns and rooting for other teams because the Browns have been garbage for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit older than you, Q, so I've been a fan long enough to remember, when the Browns were good, back before the move, and saw the AFC Championship games, and when the Browns used to win the AFC, Central Division. So, and I've suffered through all these bad years with everybody else. It's, all I want is to see this team do well. And it kind of blows my mind that how strong this fan base is and that there are so many fans that have really never seen this team do well. This is such a proud franchise. There are so many great players that have been a part of this franchise over the past, whatever, 70 years that this franchise has been in existence. And just to bring back some of that glory, 7-8-1 doesn't quite do that, but we're getting there. And I think when you have a coach and a GM and a quarterback, I think we know that we're on the right path. That when you have those three guys in place, as long as Freddie Kitchens can prove that he can make the step from OC to head coach, I think we're going to feel like it's inevitable that this team is going to make some playoff runs, and we can be proud, not just loyal Browns fans, but just proud, puffing our chest out Browns fans once again.
Definitely agree with you. Now, Mayfield, Chubb, Ward, they had great rookie years. Ward was selected to the Pro Bowl. Mayfield and Chubb, they were selected as Pro Bowl alternates, What things do they have to improve on in order to avoid the sophomore jinx?
Well, let's start with Denzel Ward. Denzel Ward's he's got to avoid the concussions. They've got to work with him on the tackling. He's got to avoid going after the tight ends with his head up. Man, his career is going to be real short if he can't eliminate those concussions. That scares the crap out of me. He is such a talent, but we need him to stay healthy. So, I'd rather see him sidestep the dang tackle than get more concussions. That's the main thing for Denzel Ward. He's got to, he needs some instruction, man. He needs to stay healthy and be on the field. All he needs is to be on the field to be great. Nick Chubb, all he needs is more carries. Nick Chubb had, I mean, we all know he didn't start until, I believe, week 7. He only had double-digit carries in half the Browns games last year, and he still was around 1,000 yards. If he gets 15 to 20 carries every game next year, he's probably going to hit 1,500 yards next year. I don't think he has to do anything different from what he did this season. Baker's just got to be Baker and play 16 games. I just watching Baker, you know how much he learned from playing this season. The wheels are turning up there, and he picked up so much. He had such an excellent season this year, but he was a rookie. It's so hard to believe that he was a rookie the way he played. But he learned a lot, and that he's going to remember all these situations, and he's going to be even better next year. And we're going to see the growth in him, and it's kind of scary just to see how good he's going to be.
Definitely. Okay, now there was debate going on for weeks who should have won Offensive Rookie of the Year between Baker and Saquon Barkley. Ultimately, Saquon Barkley walked away with Offensive Rookie of the Year. Why do you think Baker didn't win Offensive Rookie of the Year?
Well, both guys had great years. It can be tough on an award like that, but I think the reason that Saquon won is because he plays in New York. I mean, you got to be realistic. That's how the NFL and sports are. I mean, guys that play in the big cities, they get more recognition and they get more hardware. That's just how it is. I mean, the reality is Baker played in 14 games, and he set the rookie touchdown record, for passing touchdowns. Okay, I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but look at the last 3 or 4 quarterbacks who have set that rookie touchdown record. I guarantee you, probably every one of them.
Manning, Russell Wilson.
They probably all won Rookie of the Year, right? Or most of them, I would guess. If you're putting up 27, 28, whatever or more touchdown passes as a rookie, you're probably winning Rookie of the Year. So, bottom line, they probably both deserved it, but we know that quarterback's a more important position, and the Browns are more relevant than the Giants are right now. And sure, I think Baker should have won.
Okay, now do you think Baker didn't win because of the media perception of Baker coming into the draft?
No, I don't think his perception coming in the draft had anything to do with it. I think it's probably more the New York thing, if anything.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I always feel, well, maybe in the NBA market matters more. I always felt it was more different in the NFL. Like no matter what city or market you played in, you would get more shine as long as your team was good and competitive and contenders just about every year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any other way to rationalize Barkley winning it. I mean, let's face it, it's not like Baker was head and shoulders above Barkley, but it's just, when you have the season Baker had, it's just unreasonable to not give him the Rookie of the Year award in my estimation. If anything, it could be a bias against the Cleveland Browns that he didn't win the Rookie of the Year award.
Well, that could be true. Or, dang, lost my train of thought for a second. But some people play devil's advocate. Some people felt, well, Baker had help with Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and Saquon Barkley didn't have that. He had just had an old Eli Manning.
Yeah, well, how many games would the Browns have won without Baker? I mean, you could go back and forth on that all day. You know, um, the quarterback is the guy who's responsible out there.
Well, if Baker would have started game one of the 2018 season, do you think his chances winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year would have been better?
It's possible. Um, I mean, he obviously would have put up a few more numbers. So maybe the difference between his numbers and Barkley's numbers would have looked a little different. You know, maybe if he had, maybe if Baker had thrown 33, 34, 35 touchdown passes, maybe there wouldn't have been any question about it. But, it's hard to say.
Well, yeah, I can see your point. Okay, we got to get into the 2019 schedule for the Browns. Besides playing the AFC North and the AFC West third place winner, they're playing the AFC East and the NFC East, which means the Browns are playing the Patriots and the Rams. They play the Patriots in Foxborough, and the Rams are coming to Cleveland. So, how does the 2019 schedule work in the Browns' favor?
Well, it's really hard to look at a schedule now and know what it's going to look like when the football season starts because teams, the character and the composition of teams change and it changes throughout the season too as injuries happen and other transactions happen. But to just look at the schedule right now, sure, you have the two teams that were in the Super Bowl and you have the Seahawks, but besides that, to me, it's a favorable schedule. It just is. You have just throwing the six division games out. You've got the Dolphins, the Bills, the Titans, um, and not that these are all easy ones or anything, but then the Jets, the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Broncos. So those are all games that the Browns, you know, certainly have a shot at. So I think they have to be pretty pleased with the schedule. Of course of course you have to go to New England and host the Rams, which are going to be tough games. And at least they get to host the Seahawks rather than going to Seattle. I think that's a big bonus that they don't have to go to Seattle because I think that gives them a lot better shot in that game. But I happen to like the schedule. I think it's favorable, um, and I could see him doing I could see him doing pretty well with it.
Okay, now I read Peter King's article on NBCSports.com, and he predicted that maybe the Browns would open the season in Gillette Stadium as the Patriots get their rings. How interesting would that be?
Pretty interesting, I guess. I don't know why they would pick the Browns to do that, but hey, you never know. I guess
Well,
they are trying to get Baker out there as one of the up and coming stars. So never know, could happen.
I got to correct one thing. I mean that they're going to raise the banner because they'll already have the rings. They should be getting their rings within the next couple of months.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Okay. So how many primetime games do you see the Browns playing in next season? Just an
Oh,
estimate.
um, I would I would be surprised if they don't have at least what maybe four. What do they have this year? One, one or two.
Maybe two. The
They had, they,
Thursday night game against the Jets and the Saturday night game in
yeah,
Denver.
yeah. I remember the Saturday. I would say they'll have. I would say I would say, yeah, I would say at least 4. I don't know if they would have more than that or not. I don't know what the average team has, but I would say 4 is probably a pretty good number.
Okay. Do you think that they'll be on Sunday night football or Monday night football? Well, we could eliminate Thursday night football because everybody gets on Thursday night football. That's the NFL throwing every team a bone on Thursday night. So do you see them getting any Sunday night games or excuse me, Monday night football games?
Um, yeah, I think they will. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see when the schedule actually comes out because I mean, the Sunday night game can be flex. So it's kind of what they get for Monday, if they get a Monday night game, and that could be, that could be a Steelers game. It could be, um, it could be what, the Seahawks or the Rams. Any of those 3 games I could see being a Monday night game potentially. And then, a Sunday night game that could end up being anybody who if the Browns end up having a pretty good record as the season goes on, it could be anybody like, Ravens, Steelers, who else? Maybe even the Titans, maybe even the 49ers or the Broncos. Anybody who happens to be doing well, any of those games could be flexed to a Sunday night.
Well, call me crazy, and I've put this out on my Twitter page, but I could kind of see the Rams game being a Sunday night game. You have great matchups there. You have Goff versus Baker, Gurley versus Chubb, Donald versus Garrett.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the most likely primetime games are the Pats, Rams, and Seahawks. I could see one of those being a Monday night game. And then, yeah, the other 2 could potentially be Sunday night, but then I could see any of the other ones that I was talking about being moved to a Sunday night potentially.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so what percent do you put the Browns win the AFC North in 2019 as of right now?
Ooh. Before the off season.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel pretty good about their chances. I just do. I think um, based on the other teams in the division, I almost feel like they have about a 50% chance right now of winning the division.
Yeah, I can definitely see those eyes because Pittsburgh right now they're dysfunctional. They don't know what they're going to do with Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell. I think they're likely done in Pittsburgh, especially Antonio Brown after the stunt that he pulled on the last game of the season. I mean, the man
Yeah.
basically walked away from his team in the middle of a big game that could have got them into the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I think Le'Veon Bell's technically a free agent now or close to it, so he's
Yeah,
not going to
he
be
is a
back.
free agent.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
he's
he's
not
definitely not
back.
coming back.
Antonio Brown. I mean, I'm not going to brush the Steelers off and say they're not going to be relevant or anything, but they seem to be primed to maybe take a step back. I mean, they didn't make the playoffs this year, so I mean they've got to prove it next year. Um, I'm still not super impressed with the Ravens. I think the Lamar Jackson thing is not sustainable. How many how many yards are you going to rush with your quarterback before he gets killed? Um,
Right.
so and the Bengals have a new coach coming in. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some things change. Maybe even with their quarterback. I just don't see them making a run next season. So I think the Browns are in a good spot to be able to challenge for the division next year or
Yeah,
this year.
yeah, I definitely agree with you on a lot of points. Just said it, spoke on the Steelers. The Ravens, yeah, I definitely don't believe in Lamar Jackson. I have a lot of Ravens fans for some reason that come at me on Browns live streams, trolling, talking crap as if that they went to the won the Super Bowl. But no, Lamar Jackson experiment is not sustainable. I always say it wasn't really him that got them the North AFC North title. It was the defense.
It was the defense, yeah.
And who knows? That defense is getting older now. Eric Weddle, you don't know if they're bringing him back. C.J. Mosley, you don't know if he's coming back. Terrell Suggs, he may retire.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And plus, I don't trust their offense either.
Their offense was pretty much running the ball, and yeah, I mean that's pretty much all it was near the end of the season. Was with Lamar Jackson in their backs, you know. So yeah, you're not gonna win with that kind of an offense, and yeah, their defense, like you said, it's getting up there. So yeah, they could definitely be due for a step back.
And also the Bengals, I definitely think they're tanking for Trevor Lawrence within the next 2 years because Andy Dalton, he's starting to what? He's about 30 now, if I'm not mistaken, or he's close to it.
Yeah, I think he has another year or two left on his contract. This might be his last season. He either has 1 or 2 seasons left on his contract. Yeah.
Okay, and AJ Green, he's definitely starting to get up there.
Yeah, he's had some injury issues. Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
I definitely see the Bengals tank, definitely trying to tank for Trevor Lawrence. So, what message do you have for your fellow AFC North podcasters and beat reporters who still take the Browns lightly?
well, um, I would just kind of pay attention to the moves that Dorsey makes, you know, and I think we've really just scratched the surface with Baker Mayfield. I think we've kind of scratched the surface with Nick Chubb, and I think the defense is what's going to really be addressed this offseason, and I think it's going to be much improved next season, which is probably not going to be too kind for some of the other teams in the division. So I know other teams are going to make some improvements too, but the Browns really aren't going to be losing too many guys, and they're going to be adding some depth and some talent. So I'm looking for some big numbers out of some guys next year. I think Baker has a shot in his second season to set the Browns all-time yardage and touchdown records next year. I think he'll do that in his sophomore season. I think Nick Chubb's going to probably hit 1,500 yards rushing, and I think you're going to see a whole lot of receivers put up a lot of yards next year.
Oh, definitely. I definitely can see that. Another thing I got to ask you. Once again, Clay Matthews Jr. has been denied the Hall of Fame once again. I mean, congratulations to Ed Reed, Champ Bailey, Tony Gonzalez, and everyone else who just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. But how come Clay has not been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
Well, Quinn, it's really hard to figure. I mean, it's hard to put into words, really. Clay had such an amazing career. I think the voters, I think they almost kind of punish him for the length of his career, which is kind of silly. This is a guy who has the third most tackles all time. He's close to 100 sacks. He had a bunch of picks and fumble recoveries and forced fumbles and stats just everywhere. He played inside backer, outside backer. He did whatever the team needed. He made 4 Pro Bowls, which some people apparently think is not enough to get you in the Hall of Fame, even though Ozzie Newsome only made 3 as a player. Which is no disrespect to Ozzie, but Pro Bowls are kind of, it's kind of like making the Hall of Fame based on a popularity vote. It's not a measure of greatness at all. I just think the voters are missing the boat. Clay made the top 25. He didn't make the top 15. We thought he had a good shot at it. I worked with with his daughter Jennifer and several other people, to put numbers out, kind of just showing why he belongs there. His numbers speak for themselves. We compare Clay's numbers to a lot of guys who are in the Hall of Fame, and his numbers stand up to just about anybody's. All Hall of Famers, not guys that aren't in the Hall of Fame and trying to get in, to guys who are in the Hall of Fame. And his numbers are favorable to anybody's. So the man belongs in the Hall of Fame. Obviously I'm not in the room when these guys are talking and voting on the players, so I don't know. And it's hard for me to look at the guys who made it in and say, well, Clay should be in instead of that guy. It's hard to do that. But when you go through these votes year after year after year, and you see a guy like Clay Matthews not being inducted, sooner or later you got to say, man, something's not right when he's not getting in and all these other guys are getting in front of him. It's no offense to any one guy, that one guy, that there's one guy that I don't think should be in his place, but Clay Matthews belongs in the Hall of Fame, and they need to get it right. So Jennifer is working very hard to talk to people. She's talking to Hall of Famers to get letters of recommendation, to deliver to the committee. People that played against Clay and coached Clay and know Clay, to try to get them to understand why he belongs there. It's all I can say. It's frustrating, and Clay is, from talking to Jennifer, Clay really doesn't want any part of this. He is not a guy to toot his own horn. Jennifer's doing this on her own, to get her to, because she wants her dad to find his rightful place in Canton. Clay would never campaign for himself to be in the Hall of Fame, but we all know he belongs there. So we're going to keep fighting. Jennifer at this point is kind of doing everything that she can, and the rest of us are just there when she needs us to do something for her. But we've got the 2020 vote coming up next, and so we're hopeful that things will be different next time around. And I'm just looking forward to the day when he gets enshrined, because let me tell you, when Clay Matthews goes into the Hall of Fame in Canton, it's going to be one hell of a party, and I can't wait for it to happen.
Definitely agree. Yeah, that's going to be crazy that his brother and his son could go into the Hall of Fame before he does.
It could happen. Yeah.
Okay, now one more thing. Fill in the blank. The Browns will be a Super Bowl contender in
2020.
Really? Next year?
Yeah.
So you saying
sure.
So you saying the Browns are going to pull a Philadelphia Eagles, huh?
Well, they'll definitely be a contender in 2020. I'm not saying they're going to win it in 2020, but yeah, I believe that.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rob Bluhm from the Browns beat writer for CLESportstalk.com. Check out all his good articles on the Browns. Everything you need to know about the Browns. Definitely check out this man. Thank you for joining me, Rob.
Thanks, Quentin. Appreciate you having me on, buddy.
No problem. Let's do this again.
That sounds good.